Let me take you back to when Capcom's Street Fighter 2 came out. I never heard of the first one, but hey, this is an awesome game. Can't wait for Street Fighter 3. Then comes Street Fighter 2, the Champion Edition. Oh, cool. Street Fighter 3's next, right? Nope, Street Fighter 2 Turbo. Okay, awesome. Can't wait for Street Fighter 3. Super Street Fighter 2. Cool. Street Fighter 3? Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo. What the fuck? At first I thought all these updates were kinda nice to hold you over, but how many times can you update the same fucking game? It's getting ridiculous. I'm not gonna buy it again. Well, then finally comes Street Fighter Alpha, then Street Fighter Alpha 2, and after that, I honestly lost track. There eventually was a Street Fighter 3, like 9 million versions of it, but there was also Street Fighter Zero, Street Fighter EX, EX2, and EX2 Plus. Not to mention, way back on the NES, there was Street Fighter 2010, and I couldn't tell you where that fits in. And speaking of Capcom, Mega Man's another series where the numbering got confusing. There's Mega Man 1 through 6 on the Nintendo, but then on the Super Nintendo, there's Mega Man X, which at the time I thought it meant Mega Man 10, but then came Mega Man X2 and X3. Strangely enough, there was a Mega Man 7 on Super Nintendo after all. That's right, two different series going on at the same time. Then on the PlayStation consoles, there was Mega Man X4, X5, X6, X7, and X8. There was even a Mega Man 8, a regular Mega Man 8, on PlayStation. Now, only if they made a Mega Man 9, it would come full circle. It doesn't end there either. What's this? Mega Man Battle Network series? Mega Man 64? Did they really make it that far? No, that was just the Nintendo 64 stupid gimmick of putting 64 at the end of every fucking title. Another thing that really grinds my shit is when the Japanese and American releases of games differ. The results can also be pretty confusing. A good example was when Super Mario Bros. 2 in Japan wasn't released in America till later, but what we got in its place was a completely different version, though it was still called Super Mario Bros. 2, and the Japanese one came later as The Lost Levels. The Final Fantasy series is the prime example. Not being a hardcore fan, I'll attempt to explain it to the best of my knowledge. From what I understand, Final Fantasy 2 at the time of its Japanese release wasn't released in the US, neither was Final Fantasy 3. But Final Fantasy 4 came out here, and because we didn't have 2 or 3, it wouldn't have made sense to call it 4, so what do? They call it 2. Now, Final Fantasy 5 wasn't released here either, so when 6 came out, that became 3. Final Fantasy 3 also happens to be one of my all-time favorite games on the Super Nintendo. And I remember that after that, Squaresoft started releasing the next Final Fantasy games on PlayStation. Things changed, and now they weren't fucking with the titles anymore. So when Final Fantasy VII came out, they just called it Final Fantasy VII. And that's where the confusion began. I wondered, what the fuck happened to 4, 5, and 6? But what I really should have been wondering, little did I know, what the fuck happened to 2, 3, and 5? And once I figured that out, I was like, so there were other Final Fantasy games we didn't know about? I was playing 6 all along and not 3? What a bunch of fucking bullfuck. Now let's talk about movies now, because I have a lot to say. One of the things that really brings my piss to a boil is when there's a movie that has a whole bunch of sequels, all conveniently numbered, but then they suddenly decide to stop numbering them. Take Halloween for example. Halloween, Halloween 2, Halloween 3, Halloween 4, Halloween 5, Halloween The Curse of Michael Myers, Halloween H2O, and Halloween Resurrection. Oh God. If they continue like this, years from now, future generations aren't going to know which order these films came in unless they do a little research first. What I want to know is why was it okay to number the first 5, but not after that? Like they're embarrassed